Warning, this video features opinions. You have been warned. Also, maybe some minor spoilers. Some very minor, very tiny, teensy-weensy little, teensy-wee. So, I might piss some people off by saying this, but the story of this game seems to be based on a bunch of bullshit. However, I'm not saying I don't like it. In fact, I actually really enjoyed this game for a bunch of reasons. And, to be honest, I totally went in expecting to hate it. So yeah, let's get into the how and the why and the stuff and things. So like I said, the story seems to be based on a bunch of bullshit. What I mean by that is that I'm not sure if Final Fantasy XIII ever really was intended to have a sequel of any kind, so there wasn't really anything there they could already expand on. If you look at all the Final Fantasy VII spin-offs, they definitely had a lot of material to work with and expand on. With 13, not so much. They basically had to make up a bunch of additional shit and then go from there. So when the game starts, everything just feels weird and awkward and out of place. Everything's all hazy and dreamy and oh god, I can't remember the past and stuff, and oh no, time travel. All of a sudden everyone can use magic instead of just the l'Cie. That's convenient. Also, this new character just falls from the sky because of the prophecy. Of course, as stuff progresses, it all falls into place. You kinda start to forget about all the shit that went on in 13 and everything starts to work out a little. And don't get me wrong, time travel and amnesia-esque things are still really stupid and easy plot devices. But what it sets up right here is actually a very enjoyable experience. You see, the main plot kinda takes a back seat for the most part and you just kinda get to bumblefuck around in all the different worlds and timelines. I feel the game kinda takes some notes from the Kingdom Hearts series. Every world has its own little problems and stories to solve, and doing this is actually a lot of fun. Or at least it was to me. Anyway, all these small things you do contribute to the main story in their own way, and as the game progresses they keep giving you these questions. Who's that guy over there? Who's that? It seems like No seems to know, but he ain't gonna tell us. And as these questions arise, you of course want answers. And before you know it, you're invested in the plot. It's kind of an easy trick to sucker you into the story, but it does work. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't invested at all. I actually started to care about shit. Man, I really wanted to know what exactly was going on, and that's something 13 didn't do for me at all. Also, it's a lot easier to care because they cut out most of the melodrama. They actually got rid of all the over-the-top melodramatic piano music from the first game. In fact, I actually really like the soundtrack. The music in the areas is really beautiful, and it fits the game really well. The atmospheric soundscapey stuff makes more sense here, because most of the game just consists out of exploring at your own pace. The first town in the game, New Bodham, really sets the stage in terms of what you can expect. If I could compare it to anything, I'd say it's kinda like that part in Final Fantasy X where you first reach Besaid Island. Some of the music even has instrumentation and chord progressions very similar to Final Fantasy X soundtrack. Lots of dissonant chords, 808 kicks, drum and bass, post-dubsteppy music, J-funk, and of course a healthy amount of pads. There were a few things I didn't really like about it though. Some flashback scenes to 13 still had that damn main theme in there going all like completely assing up an otherwise beautiful experience. And there's this one song which plays during a few boss fights, and it has like screamo vocals. Now, considering a large part of the fanbase, this would probably be a popular choice to make. I mean, if Huge can walk around like this, then so can the fans. So I can see why it's there. But I just can't stand that shit. I'm really open-minded towards most genres of music. But if there's one thing I can't stand, it's screamo music, or metalcore, or post whatever the fuck you want to call it. Now, I'm not gonna riff on it or anything. People can listen to whatever they want to. And I'm pretty sure there's people watching this that would enjoy it. But if you're anything like me, consider this a warning. It's just one track, but it's there. The song overall isn't too bad actually. I mean, a large part of it's actually acid house. Anyway, the soundtrack's pretty good. It's way better than 13's soundtrack in my opinion, and I'm glad they went with such a wide array of genres. All that said, it certainly isn't anything like Nobuo. If that's still what you're looking for, you'll probably be disappointed. Then again, as much as I love Nobuo's work, I'm not even sure his style would have fit the game at all. I mean, they went headfirst into cyberpunk, and to be honest, I don't think his style of music would really fit with that. It'd probably be a more original sounding OST though, because as good as it is now, it's almost stereotypical to the game's style at this point. And he did do a great job with Final Fantasy VIII's music, which also went in a very future-y direction. But like I said, 13-2 fully embraces the cyberpunk in all of its glory. I mean, fucking look at this. Have I mentioned that the game is fucking beautiful? Because it is. Academia especially. This has to be one of the most beautiful looking locations in a thing I have ever thinked before. And it's fully explorable too. They spent a lot of time designing the crap out of this game and it shows. It may not be the most original looking Final Fantasy, but still. Character designs look a lot better too. Similar to the soundtrack, they all kinda look like Final Fantasy X characters. The NPCs especially. The combinations of tribal looking shit and full on futuristic stuff works really well and I actually like it a lot. They also took a few cues from Advent Children and added a bunch of completely over the top action scenes. They're nonsensical as fuck, but hey, it does look kinda cool. I mean, it's not Dragon Ball Z levels of crazy or anything, but motherfuckers do fly around all over the place here and there. However, there's this one thing that kinda bothered me with all of the cutscenes, and that's the fact that the frame rate is all over the place. Not sure why this is. They did say something about towns and stuff being nearly impossible during the development of Final Fantasy XIII, so maybe this is what they meant. Maybe this is only something that happens in the PlayStation 3 version, I don't know. But in every cutscene the movement just gets really choppy here and there, especially when the camera slowly pans around and there's lots of characters on screen. I didn't notice anything while playing though. And it's not like the frame rate box down to 0 or anything like that. Some of the movements just get really choppy. It isn't that big of an issue though, at least it wasn't for me. Also, Snow looks a little stupid in my opinion, kinda like a neckbeard Super Saiyan. And while I pretty much like all of the character designs, a lot of the NPCs look the same face-wise. But all that's just nitpicking at this point, and I think the game looks really great. And while on the topic of NPCs, they are there, and they speak. Yes, explorable towns, with people in them that say shit. I'm so glad they added this. A big part of the fun for the Final Fantasy series for me used to be walking around talking to people and finding all sorts of secrets and side quests. And holy shit, there are a lot of side quests. So much in fact I barely got around to doing all of them. Some of the worlds are still kinda linear, but that doesn't really matter anymore because there's people around everywhere. They did a pretty good job making the worlds feel alive as well. The NPCs react when enemies appear, and they talk about events that just occurred, or something you did for them. They also interact with each other. It's these small little things that just make the game a lot more fun to play for me. There's a few things about the NPCs I can still nitpick about though, like the fact that you can't move the camera while talking to them, or the way their vocal clips sometimes overlay each other. But like I said, all that's just nitpicking. The side quests are quite fun to do and there's a bunch of secrets and treasures to find as well. And even though you can't move the camera while talking, I'd say the camera movement has been improved greatly. Final Fantasy XIII had this weird, slightly over-the-shoulder thing, and the camera felt really floaty and awkward. In 13-2, that's no longer the case. The camera's now set behind your character at a reasonable distance and it's way more responsive. It just makes navigating so much easier. I'd say just walking around in general has been improved upon greatly. You can now jump whenever you want to, which is actually a first for the series, as ridiculous as that may sound. It's also really nice to revisit some of the areas from the first game and actually explore them for once. Like I said, Final Fantasy XIII had some nice locales. You just couldn't really do anything in them. Now you can, and it's actually quite a lot of fun to do. Almost kinda relaxing in some way. just walking around with some nice music in the background, talking to people and exploring. I really missed this in Final Fantasy XIII and I'm glad it's here now. They also added a bunch of new places to fuck around in as well. There's actually quite a lot of different areas, and to be honest I didn't expect this many. It's actually quite a lot like a traditional JRPG, well, in terms of exploration at least. Of course there's also a lot of modern stuff, like autosave, which to be honest I'm glad they added because Final Fantasy XIII went completely nuts with the save spots. Now, because of the removal of the save stations, they also had to revise the shop.
Chocobocolina! Welcome, get your traveling products here at Chocolina's Emporium.
I don't really like this character. I know it's meant as a joke and you also kinda get used to it, but just, yeah. Also, apparently she's that little choco chick that lived in Saz's hair. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Thing is too, she's also a time traveler slash traveler of dimensions kind of thing. And they already had a character to fit that exact part. They have Stiltskin. I mean, there's already a fucking Moogle in this game, so why you know Stiltskin? It's not really that big of a deal, I guess, but still. I would have preferred Stiltskin over this. Anyway, they also added this thing called live triggers, and it's pretty much a very small dumbed down version of a dialogue tree. I kinda like it. It doesn't add a whole lot, but it certainly doesn't detract from anything either. They've also added QuickTime events during cutscenes. Now, to me, there's the bad kind of QuickTime and the good kind. The bad kind would be those from Resident Evil 4. Like, you're just watching a cutscene and all of a sudden Krauser jumps out from the sky and kills you. Game over. The good kind would be those that don't kill you. And, to be honest, I don't know if XIII-2 has the bad or the good kind. I never managed to fail one, so I really don't know. Anyway, the recaps are still there, only now they're better.
Final Fantasy XIII-2, the story so far.
I still applaud this, and I think that more story-driven games should adapt this idea. It's just nice to get a little reminder of all the shit that's going on every time you start playing. Also, they've done away with those fucking exclamation marks sprinkled all over the menu in Final Fantasy XIII. Here, you just get them with new and important shit, and not with every little thing you get. They also cleaned up the look of the menu overall. Most of the character progression thingies are still pretty much the same. The Crystarium is still there. It looks a little different, but it still functions in pretty much the same way, albeit a bit more simplified. There's also this thing called time anomalies, which are these weird little puzzle things that open up time gate thingies of doom or whatever. They're kind of a nice addition. They add some variety, I guess. It's just that the one with the clock is just... ugh. I spent about an hour trying to solve that goddamn thing. It's fucking crazy. There's also this thing called the Historia Crux, which is basically just a world selector. Like I've already said, there's a lot of worlds to unlock and some of them are quite hard to find. The load time when entering a world is fucking insane though. It's not that big a deal for most of the game, it's just that some segments require you to switch around between worlds a lot. And then it just gets really annoying. Also about that Moogle that I mentioned before, at first I hated it. It's not just that it talked, I mean, they've always spoken. It's just that this is the first one with a voice. And it isn't necessarily the voice itself that really bothers me. It's just the fact that they replaced the with... But as I've said, I hated it at first. Believe it or not, but I actually got used to it and now it doesn't really bother me at all. And if it still does, you can always throw it. That Moogle is also a big part of the battle system. Apart from it actually being your weapon, it's also your maw clock. Basically, encounters are random again, and when the enemies pop up you get some time to hit them before the battle starts. That's where your maw clock comes into play. If you can hit them before the timer runs out, you get a preemptive strike. It works really well actually, and I rarely had a battle where I didn't get a preemptive strike at the start. The battle system itself is largely the same, it just looks a lot flashier. In 13 they wanted a more fast-paced, action-packed feel, and where they didn't completely succeed with that in 13 itself, they certainly did here. The battles are fast and kind of fun, even a little addictive at times. The bosses no longer just have vast amounts of HP, they actually do shit now. And you have to paradigm shift all over the place in order to win. Also, they've done away with that thing that when the party's leader dies, it's game over. Here, just like in 12, when you're, say, controlling Sarah and she dies, you instantly switch to null. Then you just switch to a paradigm with a medic and use Raise on her. or you just quickly use a Phoenix down. I'm really glad they did this, as it makes the battles against stronger enemies a lot less of a bother. And of course, there's also that whole monster thing the game is going on. The monsters, while in battle, function the same as any other party member would. They also level up with the Crystarium, although they use items instead of EXP. And they have similar classes, like Saboteur or Ravager. They do have a little limit break thing called a Feral Link. It works just like any other limit break would in the other Final Fantasy games. You build up points in a bar thingy, and then when it fills up you can do a special attack, which is, as usual, paired with a little quick time event or a mini-game-ish thing. It's a nice addition, and I feel like they put this in here to kinda replace the summons or something. You can also name your monsters and give them little accessories called adornments. These adornments are mostly just hats and stuff. They don't really add any stats or anything, they're just meant to be fun. And as strange as this might sound, I actually kinda bonded with them a little. I mean, my little Zwerg Fabio and my trusty Chocobo Ned fought with me all the way to the end. Even though I was skeptical at first, I ended up really liking the addition of monster collecting. I think that pretty much sums up my experience with this game overall. I was skeptical at first, but I ended up really enjoying it. I guess whether or not you will enjoy it will totally depend on what you like. I mean, if you liked Final Fantasy 8 or 10, I think you'd probably enjoy playing this one a lot. That said, if you're looking for something along the lines of Final Fantasy 6 or 9, this might not be something for you. Sure, the time travel thing is really dumb, but the story actually unfolds into something that's actually kind of enjoyable. The game didn't really have any major dull points for me, and I had a lot of fun playing it. So yeah, Square, you made it good, buddy. You did it. You made it good. I will now applause at you. Here you go. Have applause at you. Here's hoping Lightning Returns is just as good.